It's time to sit down and relax for the good, the bad, and the sequel Q&A with your host, Doug.
Hey there. Last week's sequel was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 3, the time-traveling one when they go to Japan. Still wish that there was more pizza, more fighting, and more cowabungas. But it was definitely nostalgic watching the Turtles, and it led to one of my favorite interviews to date, and that is with suit actor for Raphael, Matt Hill. Matt Hill is a Canadian super nice guy who brought energy right from the beginning and kept that energy till the very end. The stories on how he got started in acting, landed his role as Raphael is just wild, and how he found his voice for Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy. Also, he tells me a story about an ABC series about the Turtles that almost happened that sounded pretty awesome. Matt is such a caring individual that uses his success to give back through a running campaign he did called Run for One Planet. So let's start the interview. So you're originally from Vancouver, born and raised?
Yes, indeed. Born and raised, lad. Born and raised.
Awesome. Me and my wife lived in Oregon for a few years. So not too far.
Yeah. Yep, totally. It's the West Coast is it's amazing. Hey, it's like so the same in many ways, but so incredibly different.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Were you guys in Portland?
Yeah, we were in Portland, for a few years.
Yeah. Fantastic. It's beautiful. Actually, Portland's a really cool town. I like that.
Yeah, we loved it. We went and visited, and then within like a couple months, we drove all the way from New Jersey all the way out there.
Oh,
so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very cool, man. Right on. Well, thanks for having me on your most illustrious show, compadre.
Well, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I bet you
pleasure.
if it was like 7 or 8-year-old me and having this conversation, I'd be like mind blown that I'm talking to a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was telling somebody else, my version of that, a couple of days ago was when I met Brian May from Queen, over in London, and it was actually the premiere of a movie I was a voice on. And, I get this tap on my shoulder and like literally you kind of do this slow burn, to the right. And, I see this like very tall person standing next to me. So kind of, pan up. I'm like, holy crap. That's Brian May. I mean, that's the only thing you can say. You're Brian May. He's like, bloody good job, man.
That's great.
Like, I love your music, man. So, we all have it. The Ninja Turtles was something cool to be a part of. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely, man. So how did you get started? Like I can look at your IMDb and like I read your bio but how did you get into acting? Like what brought that on?
It's wild. Be honest with you, my light bulb moment went on a couple times really early on. Like I was a big watcher of a show. This will show my age. When I was a kid, there was a show called The Partridge Family.
Oh yeah.
And you remember them? The band. They formed a band and they went all over the place. And I kind of got that first hit of going, oh, I'd like to do something like that. And, and then I guess when I turned, so then me and my mates and the gals that lived on my cul-de-sac, we would have, every Friday night or whatever we call it, monkey hour. And we would just literally, make these, performances and acts and, sing and go crazy. And then when I turned 13, I'm like, man, your life is half over. I don't know why I thought my life was half over at 13, but, I thought, hey, if I want to do this as a career, I better get on it. And so, that was really my big light bulb moment where I went, okay, really take your destiny in your hands right now. And, I convinced my parents I was too sick to go to school, the old classic.
Yeah.
The second they left the door to go to work, I was like literally beeline, an hour away on the bus. And I went into an agency that I'd heard, on the radio that were taking new actors, because of the burgeoning industry in Vancouver, they were needing new actors. And so I showed up and it was amazing. The lady who became my agent, Dorothy Boyce, really took a chance on me, and she was this ex-model from New York, and I come up to the top of the 3 flights of stairs and, shrouded in this cloud of smoke because you could still smoke back in there, back in the day.
Yeah.
Inside. And, she's like, ugh, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, hey, my name's Matt Hill. And I really wanted to be an actor for a long, long time. And, and she did the old classic, like, so did you get any experience, Matt Hill? You seem pretty young. And I'm like, well, no, but I've wanted to do it forever. And, I just convinced my parents I was too sick to go to school. So I really, really need to make this happen. And, I remember hearing her mutter saying, either I'm crazy or delusional or I'm the smartest agent in the world because, there's something about you, kid. And, she said, okay, I'll make you a deal. If you sign up for this course so that you don't let me down taking a chance on you, I'll take a chance on you. And, I'm happy to say that literally was, it was about a 3-month course. And I booked my first professional gig about 3 weeks later, and I was able to pay her back from fronting me the money. And, interestingly enough, I'm with the same agency for over 30 years now.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So I was like, it was a big, little did I know that it was going to be sort of a journey like that,
Yeah. And then that's when that first gig, was that when you were on Bionic Woman?
No, that was Mike. So officially, that was my first sort of like foray into film and TV.
Oh, okay.
But for the purposes of being able to pay my agent back, I got to play Santa's lead elf at the Christmas display at the mall, down in Vancouver here. And so, in like basically 3 weeks of the Christmas season in like 1980, God, what was that, man? Like 1984. I made more money in 3 weeks than I probably had made in like my entire life.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, you know what? I like this. I'm good. This is fun. I love Christmas, so. But, and then it took a couple of years before, when say like the first film and TV stuff came. And then, I got one of the last live radio shows that was being done here for our national broadcaster. It's called CBC. So it was coast to coast from St. John's, from Vancouver to St. John's, Newfoundland. So it was like a very cool moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now, like, going based on your IMDb, your first credit on here is The People Across the Lake.
Oh, man, they got that wrong, but that's okay. IMDb's funny, isn't it? But yeah, that was Valerie Harper, I think. People Across the Lake was that.
Yeah, that was Valerie Harper, and it was, I forget his name. Major Dad, the guy that played Major Dad and Simon.
Yeah. That's right. And I played their daughter's, boyfriend. I had like one line. I pulled, I had rocker hair, and so I was in a band at the time, and so I definitely fit the part. I get to, fly up in a Trans Am and, see you later, babe. All right. Parents give her the slow burn going, why are you hanging out with that boy?
So what'd you have before that? So what were some other roles that should be on here?
Geez, that's interesting. There was some like more made for TV stuff. That was a little bit before People Across the Lake. There was one. Actually, no, there was a feature film called Watch Hers. With
it's on there.
Is it on there?
Listed on Boy on Bike. It's just above People Across the Lake, but the same year.
Yeah. You see, it was a breakout year for me, man. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
And then it seems it took off from there. If you look at 89, it seems like you had a lot going on that year. You got into voice acting.
Yeah. It was kind of wild, dude. It was, like I say, kind of like, it's almost like that critical mass starts to happen, right? And, because, I was absolutely doing a backflip every time I got an audition, and then doing a double backflip every time I got the gig. So, energy sort of builds upon energy, right? And, I messed up so many auditions, but at the same time, I scored some pretty fun stuff, which, to me kept telling me, okay, Matt, you're doing the right thing. Just keep going. You can do this, and, it's interestingly enough, it's definitely served me as, I guess in a way, kind of one of, my life mantras, really.
Yeah, and you were yourself. So even though some of those ones that you think you messed up on, maybe if you change the way you approach things, maybe any of these opportunities, and you're a super positive guy, just from talking to you for a few minutes. So positive thinking yields positive results. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, because really, interestingly enough, if you talk to me, say this time last year, I was in the middle of a 2-year drought, and it was like, we're talking like it was dry and dusty. It didn't seem like I was reading for a bunch of stuff, but it just seemed like, it was that classic sort of period where they're like, oh yeah, we love what you do, Matt. It's not because we don't love you. It was just for whatever reason, they're just picking the other guy, and, so it's very, it was humbling. And at the same time, it really allowed me to go back to really focus on, what's important, right? Really what's important is show up every day for your life. And, how can I contribute? So if I wasn't, say, doing new gigs, I could share my wealth. So I started teaching a little bit, and, I started coaching people, and, and then for me, sports and particularly running and triathlon has always, kept me really on a really good path as well. So, so I really found a lot of the moments I was able to kind of go like, wow, how lucky am I? One, I've got a pretty good amount of savings. So I feel like I was really blessed, kind of in a way, having a forced vacation for, say 1.5 years to 2 years, and get to go spend all day out and, swim, biking and running and, doing that kind of stuff. Right. As opposed to sitting at home going like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you had a beautiful place to do it. Vancouver here is beautiful.
Oh,
we never made it up there. We got married at Niagara Falls and hung out in Toronto
nice.
for 2 days. But no, we should never. We're going to be able to visit and go back. But so how'd you get started in voice acting? How did that come about?
Yeah, the very first audition my agent sent me out for was one of the last live radio broadcasts that CBC ever did. So CBC is our national broadcaster, so kind of like NPR radio. And so it's from coast to coast, and it was a show called Shea Gattuso, which was about this fictional Italian family that have this deli at a public market, kind of like Seattle Public Market.
Yeah.
Or there's probably something of the equivalent in Portland, I'm sure. So it's a place where the community goes, and it's all based around the ocean, right? And so this family was fictional family. Once a week, we basically tuned into the Gattuso family, and I played their young son, and me and my sister, and then my mom and dad, and the crazy characters that inhabited the in and around the deli. And so it was a really neat way to really cut my teeth in terms of live performance. And also, as I never forget, it was the director said, okay, I'm going to ask 2 things from you. I know this is your first gig. I know, I hired you. You're going to do great. That's why I hired you. Now I need you to remember, do not swear, because this thing is live across the country, and there's no kind of delay, not enough of a delay to, be able to do anything. And I remember I didn't trust myself enough that I had to write that on my hand saying, don't swear. And, cause I was it was 2 things, right? Cause he said it's live across the country. And I went like, whoa, big country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, this is so cool, and at the same time, then wrought with fear, going like, okay, don't swear. Oh my God, don't, it's, it was a neat way to really jump in. And we did that for, I guess, 3 seasons.
Oh, wow.
And actually I have my buddy Jason Priestley to thank for that, because, a pal from my hometown in Ladner and Tsawwassen, he'd just gone to LA to then obviously, go and do 90210.
Yeah.
And so, he had recommended me to a few of the people because we were in acting school together. And so it's kind of cool, a little bit of a nod from a fellow brother.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it was, I've always felt very, very fortunate that way,
That's awesome. Do you guys still keep in touch?
Not as much. I mean, I saw him a few years ago. Thus, I guess last time I was in LA, guys, this is actually more like maybe a decade ago almost. I ran into him, but I just love, it's one of those things I think about being Canadian. You kind of always feel like, could kind of probably pick up the phone and go, hey, brother, how you doing, man?
Yeah. Or if you're stuck somewhere, like Canadian people can just talk to each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, sorry, can you help me out?
That's awesome. And now, so it's pretty early on. You got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, like real early on in your career. How do you remember like how that came about? Like the whole process?
Oh my God, yeah, dude, I remember that like it's like yesterday. It was like, or sorry, yeah, like a day ago.
Yeah.
Because for me, athletics has always been a big part of also my sort of way, like I'd say, to sort of keep me in shape, but also keep my head in the game. And so when Turtles came around, I mean, I knew of the Turtles franchise, but I wasn't like I never played video games. Wasn't into computers. I didn't, you know what I mean? So I didn't read comics. So I didn't know sort of like the mass, hysteria that was surrounding this thing. Until quite honestly, until I went up for the first, I guess we had about maybe 3 auditions for it. And the very first time I knew I'd found the right sort of calling was when the director from Hong Kong, or the producer, and he said, okay, now, do you know how to do a flip? Right. And I'm thinking, I think he said flip. And then, the positive side of me said, you know what? I have no idea how to do one right now, but I bet you I could learn really fast. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I can do a flip. And said, but I don't want to do it here just because I don't want to hit anybody, because I don't really trust my trajectory. He goes, oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. And he goes, but here, put this. So they literally had us audition one of the scenes from Turtles 1 where Casey Jones and Raph have that big, huge, massive fight in the park, like, where he's, where he's like, oh, a Jose can psycho bat, like,
yes.
that. And so I literally memorized that scene, like word for word, move for move, like the biggest kabuki theater actor I could pull, because they said the only thing we have to do is we'll put this paper bag on your head because you have to be blind, deaf, and dumb because we really need to see if this character can really exude through your body, right, and your movements. And so thank God I kind of had, I guess in that way, a bit of an athletic background, and then they allowed, I guess they could see that they could do it after the 3rd audition. That's when they said, okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to pair you with one of the other guys that we're considering as being, say, Michelangelo's stunt guy, or martial arts guy, sorry. And that's a gentleman by the name of Shishir Inakalia, who's an 8th degree black belt master in Filipino stick fighting called Arnis. And he just happened to live in Burnaby, which is like a suburb of Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
And so, so they went, oh, perfect. We can hire Raphael from Vancouver. We can hire Shishir, who's Michelangelo's stunt guy or martial artist. And so they paired us together to train for about 6 months before we did the gig, because when we actually filmed, so you see all the massive choreographed fight scenes?
Yeah.
Those are all world-class martial artists and other stunt guys that are doing that stuff, except for usually the punch in and the kick in or the kick out. So they would, all hell be breaking loose. And then then one of the turtles has like a line like, what, you kidding me? And I, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I picked the wrong day to jump and, say I want to go for a walk or something like that. They would insert us. We would do a punch and a kick and maybe like a combination. And then say the line, and then they, all hell would break loose again, because then, the Raphael and the other turtles, martial artists would step in, because all those guys were like as accomplished as Shishir was, right? All like 8th degree black belt masters that could kick your, what.
Yeah.
But the nicest guys on the entire planet,
Yeah, so that's great. So when you were filming, I was wondering that because I went and watched some of it today. So you guys were reciting the lines during the scenes?
Yeah, because originally, because I was a voice actor, I was really excited because for a little while they were saying that there was a possibility that I might be able to do Raphael, the voice for the movie. So, for me, that would have been the icing on the cake, right? Be the guy in, the actor in the suit, and then also, be able to, hear my voice. But the gentleman who had done it in Turtles number 2, I believe. No, was it 1 or 2? It was 1 or 2, because he didn't come back for one of them. But then at the end, he decided he did want to do the voice for him when Turtles 3 was finished. So, obviously they said you're going to do it, or that guy's going to do it. So when we were actually filming, I would hear my puppeteer, did you ever watch Sesame Street when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Do you remember Snuffleupagus?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, my puppeteer, Noel McNeil, is the puppeteer for Snuffleupagus.
Look at that.
So,
So the
it
whole
was so
time
cool.
he was controlling like your eyes
Yeah.
and the mouth and
Yeah.
all of that. Okay.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So imagine like a really, 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 like really tight fitting, hat that goes all the way around your head and your face and your mouth and basically your whole body. And then here, like all these motors and servos and like, different little like,
Wow.
and that's what it sounded like inside my head. Except every once in a while I'd hear in my earpiece, I'd hear Noel's voice, Matt, go left. Matt, go left, and then I hit a wall or something. He's like, I said, go left.
That's so
we
great.
were like blind, deaf, and dumb, right? They finally made little, eye holes underneath. Like if you watch if you watch the movie, you can just see where they may have like sort of pulled the eyepiece down a bit so that we could see literally be able to navigate, our way across a walkway or, God, we fell off walls. We fell off the stage. We fell into like, a swamp that we were walking, doing scenes by. And it was crazy.
Oh, wow. And was it all filmed in Astoria?
Yes. Yeah. Cause originally they were going to film it in Vancouver, but then the work to right states, happened. So, meaning like half the crew could be non-union. And so
okay.
Oregon, obviously, they offered obviously probably a really great, production deal. And so, I think at the same time, what do you call it? What was that? Twins, I think, was filming just up the road. And
yeah. A lot of those movies filmed at the same time. Kindergarten Cop was like a little bit after that.
That's it.
It was like a good, probably 8-year run because Goonies was filmed there. So they were offering tax credits like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So, it's so funny. I'm sorry.
No. So that's why they ended up choosing partly, what do you call it? Because originally we were going to go shoot it in Japan, which I was so stoked.
I bet.
But then, then they went, oh, they're expensive. And so, we went to Oregon because it obviously had, the trees and stuff like that. They look a lot like, obviously, and they built this beautiful, like completely authentic 13th century Japanese village. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable what they built up there. I was just in awe, every time we'd be up there filming. It was, and that was about maybe a half-hour drive outside of Portland, or outside of Seaside. Actually, that's where we're staying.
Oh, cool. Hey, do you remember how long the shoot was?
Yeah, it was about 3 months. 3 months, and it was literally 2 weeks after we got there, probably the hottest heat wave that Oregon and the West Coast had in like a decade.
Oh,
it was so hot. Yeah. I think one time our suits kind of like, registered in at like well over 100 degrees. So it was, I lost like 15 pounds doing that show.
Wow. So you guys probably had to like pop in and out of the outfits so often or just fight right
Well, that's the thing. Back then, it was, those are the old school ones, right? And so, really, from start to finish, it was about a 2.5 hour process.
Oh,
so,
wow.
So they couldn't just sort of whip us in and out. So what they did is they took the heating elements out of hair dryers, and so whenever we'd get to the point where we were going to, pass out, we'd sort of like one of us would put our hands up and be like, all right, tap out, and they'd cut and they'd open up our mouth. And literally, our puppeteer would, our dresser would be shooting this like Luke cold air, but thankfully because it didn't have the heating element in, right?
Yeah.
I probably drank like 7 liters of fluid a day, and I probably took maybe 2 pees, once in the morning and once at night.
Wow, that's intense. So it's funny. I'm actually interviewing. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure it's tight knit when you're on the set, but he was one of the puppeteers for Splinter. His name was
cool.
Tim Lawrence. Does that ring a bell?
Oh yeah, that is so cool. When did you just interview him like recently?
I'm actually talking to him tomorrow.
Oh, cool. I don't know if he'd remember me, but to, say, yo, hey, Cowabunga from Raph.
I will. No, he very interesting guy. He's done a bunch of puppeteer work. So no, I was like, you know what? Maybe they know each other, but no, I'll definitely let him know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and then years later, you did get your calling. You were able to voice Raphael on that Fox Kids live action show.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, because I felt like, okay, they originally asked me if I would, jump in the suit again, and nothing against the local production company who was doing the show for Fox Kids, but I knew it was going to be. I felt like my gut was saying I had such a great run being Raph, in the film. So if they were going to offer me to do the voice, like, first of all, to get in the suit again, I politely declined, and kind of hedged my bets on hoping that they would, ask if I would do the voice, and they did. So I felt very, very, very grateful. So
that's awesome.
Me and Raph kind of got to sort of like solidify our relationship, if you know what I mean. I felt like we truly became like one guy,
No, that's cool. You're the only person that had the opportunity to do both.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat.
That was really cool. Cool. And dude, seriously, never did I think that this, when we were filming, especially in Astoria, like the mania that was happening, like we'd be walking down the streets, and so people, obviously they didn't know we were the Turtles, but if somebody kind of like let word that, hey, the Turtles are coming down, we're walking down the street or whatever, like people were just going nuts, and I remember sitting there in my suit on set, and I'd be sort of resting, but then I'd hear this muffled, Matt, just put your arms out. And so I literally would put my arm out, and then later on people would show me that like all these people were filing through taking pictures with us, and I couldn't even see them, right? So I had like little babies in my arms. I had like newlyweds. I had I think one guy asked his gal to marry him when he was on the set of the the film, and you know what I mean? It was like there was a very, very strong fan following. How's that?
Yeah, if you think about it like this, within the first one came out in 90, this one came out in 93. So 3 films that were very successful in that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know I was almost gonna get the chance to play him again. It was around 1998, maybe 97, and ABC had a script, and it was a mini series. So literally, it was 3 2-hour, like a made for TV over 3. I guess that's a mini series, right? So 3 2-hour movies over 3 nights or whatever, and it was the Turtles 15 years later. So they were living, amongst everybody in New York. Like, Mikey had his own surf shop, and, Raph, like, was like a security guard. He owned like a company, like stuff like that, where it really showed that, the Turtles had really integrated into society, right? And I was so excited because I was finally going to get to go to England and, go to the, Jim Henson's Creature Shop, and because I was all set to get in a suit again, and then the ABC decided not to do it. So, unfortunately, it was not to be a third time.
Man, I wonder if I could find. Usually, you can find some of those like old scripts online.
Yeah.
Or maybe since it was a mini series, maybe I couldn't find it, but I'm definitely gonna look for that. That sounds like a cool concept. 15 years later, seeing what everybody's doing, and that would have been awesome.
I know, that's what I thought was so cool about it, and I think obviously, good on ABC for even considering it, because I thought, oh man, that is bold. I think that's so cool to do, So, will they ever go back and do like a classic old school, getting guys in the suit? I doubt it. Who knows, right?
I wish it just looks so much better.
Oh, I agree with you. Sure, Michael Bay can make, or whoever it is that, are doing like the big CG, versions and stuff of it. I mean, you can make anything look huge and muscly, but I don't know, you just kind of lose what I think is kind of the essence of the sort of like the Turtles,
Yeah. No, it just doesn't look real. Like you can't conceptualize
Yeah.
it. You can't like think like I can see this right now, not them like
Yeah.
flying off, in the new movies I saw. But no, it's awesome. And then in between the two turtle jobs, you're on another big hit show. I remember it was funny. I actually had the toy that was you from Street Sharks.
Oh, dude! Wow, you're singing my song, brother.
That was a big show.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. I don't even know how many seasons we did on that.
I think it was three or four, but
Three, yeah,
I remember it being like it was like the biggest. I remember the action figures like super bulky and like big and Jab. That's so cool.
Yep, I feel very blessed, man. It's because when I get to look back on it and especially talk to people about it, like I say, I'm like, wow, man, it's kind of a lovely road you get to walk,
Yeah, it'd be really cool if somewhere you had, I don't know if you might even have something like this, like almost like some piece of artwork with like everybody in a row, like all the characters, like Raphael, like sitting with, Jab, and then Ed, and man, it's really cool.
Actually, you just gave me an idea. That might be a really cool way to sort of put something like almost like an homage to a career or something, Maybe how about I'll have this conversation when I'm 80, and hopefully I'm still doing voices, and then I can put that together.
Totally. Yeah. So then right after that, well, not exactly right after that, but then you land.
Yeah.
Honestly, I remember Cartoon Network when it started. It must have been early 90s. It was more like throwback cartoons. And then they started doing their own. And I think it was like Ed, Ed, and Eddie, Cow and Chicken. I think those were like some of the first ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, the Eds, the same thing, man. I never knew when, we sort of, because for us as an actor, it's always, in that respect, it's always the same thing in terms of, oh, okay, say in this case, you don't have the show yet, but our agent will phone and say, hey, Matt, you might be good for this role, or hey, we've submitted you for this. So that's always the same, right? But then now, looking at, say, some of the shows, like, why did some hit like that, and why did some of them not hit, right?
Yeah.
But a show like Ed, Ed, and Eddie, oh my God, the three Eds and then the rest of the cast as well, it was like a 7-8 callback situation, almost like breaking records in Vancouver in terms of, the number of times that, it kind of took to bring the cast together. And
really?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and the whole time, I gotta hand it to the creator, Danny Antonucci, because, he is one of the, truly one of the guys that I've ever worked with that he always had a storyboard, but so much of it was just completely in his head that until he heard exactly the way that he wanted the line to go, he wouldn't let it go. Right. Wow. And so, sometimes it made for a bit of frustration because, we'd be going like, dude, tell me, like Ed would be going like, oh, how do I say this way? He goes, I don't know, but it doesn't sound good. Do it better, and, you're going like, how do I do it this way? And, so we do like, I think my record was something like 22 takes on one line,
wow.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got the part by mistake because it was literally, I was so confused on what they wanted. Cause by the time we got to about the 7th audition, they had nailed it down to the 3 Eds, in terms of us like sort of reading all the lines together. So they put us in the studio and like same thing. We just run scene after scene after scene. I was so confused. I could tell that I thought, you know what? We all felt like Danny was just going to go, you know what? Ollie, get the hell out of here. None of you are right. None of you are right for this. And so out of desperation, I'll never forget it. I tapped the mic, which you never do, right? So in the booth, it went like, boof, boof, or in the studio, or in the control room, so they look up and I go, how do you get water from this thing here? Right? And I tap, and, like completely out of nowhere. And I see Danny and I hear him go, holy shit, that's the voice. I'm like, how do you get this water from this thing here? He's like, yes. Just do that. I don't care what else you do. Just do that. And, and so thankfully they've been recording the auditions or the callbacks because that was my go-to line for probably like easily the first 6 or 7 episodes. Whenever I would not be in the sort of Ed zone, Danny'd be like, play that thing again, play that thing he did, and thankfully they caught that, because that really like saved my, proverbial, buttocks,
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. So that just popped into your head out of desperation.
Completely out of desperation, dude. Because I truly didn't know what they were. So I was just, instead of going like, you guys don't know what the hell you wanted, I just kind of channeled it and went like, how do you get water from this thing? Because they kept saying Ed is like completely like dumb, completely doesn't understand, kind of comes out of left field from everywhere. I remember trying to work with that. Because Double D is like the scientist and he's very, messy, and, Eddie's the scammer, right? And so they were set. But then Ed was like, to this day, it's the only show that they openly encouraged me to not read the script before we started to record. No, because they didn't want me to prepare it, because they wanted Ed to so come out of left field, and that made for some pretty scary moments, because as an actor, you want to learn the script and sort of be able to kind of like play and craft it. But for Ed, it was completely like 180. It was, it was such an oddly beautiful experience, and I am happy to say that I still, I get asked to go to fan conventions, and
that's awesome.
I send out lots of photos of Ed and stuff like that. So I feel Raphael as well. I mean, it's like especially those two. I think because in the consciousness, maybe it's they're two pretty iconic franchises, I guess, in a way, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I feel very, very fortunate to have whatever my parts are. I feel pretty honored.
Yeah, I would say Ed, Ed, and Eddie, if you really look at it, out of those shows that started early on. On Cartoon Network, that one lasted the longest.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Remember Danny always helped, because again, I wasn't an internet guy, so I didn't look at stuff like that. He'd come in and be like, "Hey, fellas, we're number one again in blah 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 markets, and hey, 5 million kids are watching our show, every year." And at the time, we felt like, oh, that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
But as actors, it's like, oh, okay, great. We were happy to be part of it, but at the same time, it was like, okay, all right, let's record the show. We'll get her done. And, but in all honesty, for me personally, it wasn't until maybe like in 2008 when I took off with my former gal, and we ran around North America. And it was for, to meet kids and help them make healthy choices for themselves and for the planet. But it was also speaking to those kids that little did I know that, so like 20 years later, well, maybe not 20, but I guess 2008 when we started Edge, it was like 1999 or 1980. Yeah. So a few years had gone by. But little did I know that these two characters in particularly had really been such a huge part of so many kids' childhoods, and then teachers that we would meet, the schools and stuff that we presented to. And it was such an amazing, almost like a slap in the face of awesomeness, because these schools were just like freaking out because the voice of Ed was, now running to their school, and, they were going to talk about the environment. Right. And, but it took me a while to kind of like embrace it and actually go, holy shit, I was part of this show. So it's okay to use it to talk to these kids and inspire them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, and even like we're talking like even adults, like who are now teachers, would come up to me and just go like, dude, seriously, you do not know how much the Ninja Turtles helped me, decide to become a teacher, because I was bullied in school, and I did, and watching the Turtles really helped me live by a code, and that it was okay to be different, because it didn't mean that you were any less than anyone else, and so I'd have all these like unbelievable moments like that, and then the kids just like literally going like, ah! it was quite a humbling experience, but yet at the same time it was one of those little magic I think in a way, almost like a tip of the hat of a job well done, I think,
Yeah. If you're while you're doing it, you're not realizing it until, wow, this reception.
Exactly.
Or when you were
Yeah.
filming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you're like, all these people are going nuts. Like you said, you were holding babies and people are proposing and
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's wild. I mean, I got a bit of a taste of it. Like when we went to the premiere at what do you call it, Man's Chinese Theater.
Yeah.
I was like, this is kind of cool, man. This is like my first kind of like, bona fide, big franchise movie premiere. I mean, nobody knew who the hell I was, but that's okay. I was just part of this phenomenon that, was in that case the Turtles, right?
Yeah. And what was your take on the movie? Did you watch the other ones prior at all?
I watched number one religiously because to me, that's the one that I kind of like emotionally coded on.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. I mean, I thought all the actors just did such an amazing job, which could have been a really cheesy, kitschy series, but I don't know. I just think they kicked ass.
Yeah.
They brought so much realism to it. I mean, I think whatchamacallit, the actor who played Casey Jones, I think is just a rock star, man. He's such a good actor, and he was, so fun, and Paige Turco was just such a, she's just a doll, so beautiful to work with, and so I don't know, almost out of respect for the process, I've never watched actually number two, so I have no idea. Is it good?
No, it's pretty good. I loved all of them. Like it was like nostalgic today. I'm like, let me go back and watch it because I work from home, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. It was so cool. Like, and then knowing it was in Astoria, and like we lived out there, and like there, so it's like I'm looking at the trees and everything. I'm like, man, this looks so familiar. That's so neat.
That is kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah.
It was a cool concept because at the time they had. Yeah. I was never a big comic guy, so I knew they did have like Turtles in Time, but they had the video game that was Turtles in Time. So it was cool that they chose, they had to choose any period. So it could have been medieval, it could have been anything. And I thought that was a really cool period for them to go back to.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it really showcased the unbelievable talent, of everybody obviously that was part of it. Right. So, I mean, it was really, I think by the end of it, I have no idea if there had ever been plans to do like a Turtles 4 in terms of say like the classic in the suits. But I mean, maybe not. Maybe it was just because there were those, because you're saying that there was 3 comic books in terms of like those sorts of the theme. You mean?
Yeah, well, there was more comics, and it's funny, like on the internet, you could see all these stories, so I don't know how 100% this is true, but the guy who created the Turtles, what is it, Peter Laird?
Yeah.
His name? Daniel Laird? They were going to actually...
Nope, Peter,
What was that?
Yeah, you were right.
Okay, good. Yeah, so they were going to make a 4th movie, and it was going to be called The Next Mutation, and I think to honor him, or to honor someone, they were going to have like a 5th turtle, but they never did it. And then they ended up having a 5th turtle in the live action, but they had a female turtle in the one that you voiced, Raphael.
Yeah. So, it's, I mean, I hands down to them, man. I love, it took a while before I heard sort of like the full story of where those guys were almost about to go to when they, literally, collectively pooled all the last bits of their money before they had to just, move home and go like, well, I guess it's not going to happen, and then this, freaking phenomenon ends up happening like within a decade, of them, doing the comics and then, putting these movies together. I think it's like, wow, man, another ode to, staying in the game of your life and, believing in yourself and your path, and you never know what's going to happen, right?
No, you just have to really just positivity and just keep going for it, man. That's definitely
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you were in a lot of live action stuff too. So I'm not going to go through it all, but you're in Shanghai Nights.
Yeah,
with Jackie Chan and.
Oh, brother, yeah, to get to hang out with an unbelievable human, like him for, for the week that we were together was just such a gift because, I always remember at that time, English was just, very much a second language, for him. So when we started, he still had, like his script person that would decipher all his lines for him. And, so he was always studying the script, always making sure that he was getting it right. And, just for added bonus, the person who was working with him, she would write all his lines in Cantonese, but then also phonetically in a way that I guess he could understand it. Right. Yeah. So every time it was like my POV on him, I would be holding this like chalkboard with like his lines, written on them. So it was such a fun way to do a show. So I'm like, I got to hold Jackie Chan's cue cards.
That's awesome.
In between takes, he would just literally just like juggle everything. He was, super, super chill, super professional. You could see why in just a little time that I was on the set that, him and Owen Wilson, you could see why them, they could take a few years between movies and man, it's just like literally like, they stopped a day earlier and they took the weekend off, because the camaraderie was just like full on. Right. I feel very, very, like super blessed, to be honest with you, to have been part of that, because for me, it was probably the last film. Never say never, but, unless I decide to go back and do film and TV again, maybe at some point. But, for me to then be heading out and, now speaking to kids, the way I am with Run for One Planet, boy, it's sure neat to be able to go, okay, all right, that's kind of a neat way to, if that's my swan song for film and TV, then I feel super, super fortunate.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Yeah. So is there anything that you were in the past that you're like, that just didn't get like the credit it was due? Like any shows or any cartoons or anything that you can recall that you're like, man, this is so good, but just it didn't get.
Yeah, there are, that's the one thing you never know, right? What's going to hit and what's not.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Like you really don't. And some things like, you get on it and you go, oh my God, this is going to go forever, and it gets like 13 episodes. And then they're like, okay, guys, yep, okay, we're done. And you're like, what? So it's like, nothing's really kind of popping out at me. Cause I think in some respects, there's a show called Stormhawks that I did, with Nerdcore. And, that was one of those shows that I thought, man, it was so ahead of its time and it was so freaking cool, that I thought, we were slated to do 52 episodes and we got canceled. I think officially at like 48. The network didn't pick us up. And, for me, it was good because we were just about to head out on our 11,000 mile run around North America. So, timing wise, it was a good time to not get picked up, but, kind of sucked in that way because, the character I got to play was, just this fun loving dude that's just like, loving life and always, helping the team. But, kind of like, I don't know, I felt quite an akin to him,
Yeah. Feel a connection with the characters. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
So I think I know the answer to this question, but it's great that you actually do this. I think this is what you'd be doing full time if you weren't doing acting, but what would you be doing if you weren't acting?
Oh, yeah, good. I think I heard what you just led into.
Yeah.
It's getting to do, what I get to do, in terms of like, speaking to kids and really just helping be a champion for them and from an early age, really to believe in the power that they have right now, and that really, as cheesy as this might sound, but really the superhero lives inside all of us, right? It's such a neat way to be able to, in real time go in there and share some voices with them and at the same time, so it makes them laugh and, it makes their teachers realize, oh, wow, you're a good person. So you know what? Come on into our class, come on into our school, because I think if anything, it really gives me the in a way that confirmation how powerful a positive experience the power of cartoons are and the power of the superhero, right? In this way, that's why I think people, young and young at heart, that are like in their 90s, still can go to a movie or watch something on, say, television or animation, and you still get to like really touch people's heart and make them laugh, right? And in animation, you can do anything, right? That's what I love about it.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's great talking to you. What projects are you? What are you currently working on? I see a show, Super Noobs. What's that about?
Yeah, Super Noobs. That's the brilliant creator Scott Fellows, who did Johnny Test for another massive huge hit. On Cartoon Network. We did 2 seasons of that, and just had a blast working on that. It's been done now for about a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think it's coming back. So now, like I say, I'm just getting ready I'm doing lots of training. And we're writing the material for the next mission with kids, which it'll be, if you can believe it, in a reverse direction of Run for One Planet. So we'll be going the opposite direction this time, so that we can meet a whole new generation of kids, kind of quote unquote in our backyard here from Vancouver. We'll run down, the West Coast down to San Diego. And then across the bottom of the states, we'll go to Florida, and then up the East Coast to Canada, and then we'll make a run for home across the top of Canada. So that's coming together for next year. So
that's awesome. Are you running through New Jersey?
Yes, we will be.
Oh,
we'll be running. This one, I'm probably going to be on the road for probably about a year and a half, because I'm like, we're going to mix it up this time. Instead of running the whole thing, I'm going to take a day in between, and just so that we can talk to more kids. Yeah. Because that's what we found, doing the marathon each day was very, very, it was fun in that respect. But at the same time, we were constantly having to kind of go like, oh man, we'll have to catch on the next one. Because, people wanted us to stay longer. Right. So, on this one, I figure if I do, what I call the Matt style speed walk, it'll take a little longer, but it gives us a chance to really meet, kids where they live and really dig this message deep with them.
Yeah.
So
is there a way to track it?
Yeah. May 2020. So it'll be under the Run for One Planet banner. So runforOnePlanet.org. And then the mission this time is called Fit Kids for a Fit Planet.
Awesome.
And that'll be the website as well. So Fit Kids, KIDZ, and then for fitplanet.org. But both will link to each other. Runforoneplanet.org will link to Fit Kids for a Fit Planet. So
I will keep a lookout for that. That sounds neat. Maybe I can give you a high five.
Dude, that would be phenomenal. I would be honored to high five.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Well, it was great talking to you, and I really appreciate it.
Doug, thank you, man. I really appreciate this. This, really, I feel very fortunate to keep talking about this stuff. So, thanks again, brother.
And you're great to talk to. What would you say would be the most iconic Raphael line that people have you say?
Oh, that's a good one. Hey, yo, cowabunga there, my brothers and sisters. Always remember, believe in yourself, believe in your brothers and your sisters, and always help an old lady when she needs to cross the road, because you never know, sometime you might need the same hand up. Yo, cowabunga.
That was the perfect way to end it. Thanks, Matt. You're amazing, and I'll definitely look out for you.
I look forward to it, brother.
Matt was so great. I put him on the spot for a raft line, and he delivered. I'll definitely be meeting up with him when he runs through Jersey during his next campaign. Just give him a high five. You heard it right from the beginning of the story. He was determined. He saw the finish line, and he's still doing what he does because he loves it. Thanks again, Matt. And now the trailer for next week's movie.
Yo, tell him where he's at, my brother. From the people that gave you Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, comes
Ace Ventura Jr., Pet Detective.
Oh my God.
It's happening.
Like father, like son.
That's not normal.
Ace?
Find the scent
He can smell your fear.
and follow the chase.
Why do you keep doing that?
That's just how I roll, baby.
Tabby's been nabbed. I hear a whole lot of lost pets calling my name.
Come to me, my jungle friends!
Look for Ace Ventura Jr. Pet Detective.
Alrighty then.
Man, I wish I knew this existed a while ago because it works. It's really good. You can find Ace Ventura Jr. free on Amazon Prime. And then the following week, I'm interviewing, no big deal, Ace Ventura Jr., Josh Flitter, fellow Jersey guy. So subscribe to us so you don't miss out on this one. Tell your friends because they'll love all of these stories and all of our reviews. And write us a review. Helps us out. And follow us on Twitter at Sequels Only.